Okay. All right. So just welcome to Coding Deep Dive. Oh. First task is fixing the ears. All right.
Oh no, sorry.
That's okay. For me, I know the main thing I've been working on is the PDF stats. And then I'm like, whoa, if I want to submit something for iCal, it needs to be done by February 12th, which is very soon. So I probably won't be doing a lot of other tasks on assembly line and the Weaver. But yeah, let's just, so I don't know if there's much to talk about here for the PDF stats thing. We can put that on as a last thing. Any other carryover or new items anyone wants to discuss today?
I mean, there's the carry on. I mean, there's the stuff from last week, the week before.
We never
I don't
really did the
remember, but I
birthday
don't know
stuff,
if
did we?
we did it.
So I know there was some progress on the AL Toolbox PR.
Yeah.
I guess I could put in reminder framework to. Well, we'll just do an update on that. Anything that we need to talk about live for AL job list? That'd be helpful.
Not really. It's a lot of smaller stuff that, if knowing that you won't get a chance to look at it is fine, I can sort of triple test everything, make sure it's all good.
If you want to take a look at it, I will. I just saw that Michelle had already been making a lot of comments, so I wasn't sure if I didn't prioritize it, but I can definitely take an hour to look at it if you want.
No, it's fine. I merged one of the things that was pretty simple, and the other one is, it looks like it's just is the one that's still open is just changing a net attribute to be like a deduction attribute, which is technically breaking. The only thing it's breaking is the affidavit, so I'll just have to make sure that I get all of the versions right when we release, and making sure like that everything is ready. So I just haven't had time to do that.
Any blockers then? Sounds like probably.
No, not really. There's a lot of other smaller changes that I don't think will be controversial or like really need discussion. Just a lot of like, updating documentation, some smaller bugs that I just am finding while writing tutorials, but nothing that's like really blocking unless someone wants to look at it. None of it's really breaking. And so unless someone really wants to look at it, I can just, whenever the tutorials are out, I'll push those changes as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think. So like really there's just one repo that you built that's using, or at least have taken ownership of, which is using this now. So I can't think, sometimes bugs are features, but I can't think that's the case here since you have control over both ends of it. So that seems pretty good to me.
No,
I don't think I need to weigh in on.
Yeah.
So the reminder framework, I'll just pull that up so you can see. Great. Well, that's good. It sounds like we're good for that. I realized what seemed really small, which is modularizing the reminder framework, actually adds a bunch of complex dependencies that I want to be careful about testing. So once we move it into a named block and then trigger it, we actually want that to run every day, not just once. So I have to make sure the reconsider is working properly to make sure it runs each time the block runs rather than just the once and is not reevaluated. I think that seems to be working fine. I think the way that you start an interview and make sure that that session survives from the playground is a little bit tricky too. So I need to have a test and let it run for a couple of days, I guess, to make sure the framework is working the way that I think it is. It's a bit more complex once we moved it in. I think that's still worth it.
That's fair.
I
It's
mean,
fine.
you could
Things do
set
stick
it to
around.
be like a few minutes, and so you'd be able to test it faster. Okay.
No, I cannot. That does not.
No?
It's a daily
Oh my
cron. There's
God.
no way to test it
Yeah.
every few minutes.
It's
I wouldn't even be able to.
if it was raw cron, you could, but if it's just Docker symbols, you set a variable called daily event, then
No.
There's an hourly cron, but that wouldn't be testing the actual thing we're using. So I would not really feel that confident with that test.
Okay. It would be that different? Okay. Yeah, sure.
Well, I would just be worried about making sure that everything is correct. You know, if we're trying to test it live, then not testing the actual thing doesn't seem that helpful. Obviously, we could
Sure.
just
Sure.
change the name of the event back and
Mhm.
know that we didn't have a typo by looking at it carefully. But
Sure.
I'm okay with waiting a few days, I guess.
Sure.
So I should probably come back to this and finish it because it's really close to being ready once that's done. Maybe I'll want another set of eyes on it though, because it's a bigger change than I was thinking at first. But no real blocker there. Anything else while I'm typing? Anyone else wants to jump on? I could talk about PDF stats, I guess, but not while I'm typing.
can't really think of anything.
The birth date stuff. Oh, well, I'll say after.
You can say it out. Yeah.
The birth date stuff is more complicated than just detecting the min and max attributes on the elements, because everything is apparently jQuery validation. And so I haven't figured out how to get the jQuery validation for a field out of the ether. So not sure what the next step there is going to be. Probably asking Jonathan something. I'm not sure he's that familiar with jQuery validation either, but he might be familiar enough with the parameters that we'll just tell people it'll have to be a special attribute, as opposed to just doing min or max. A little more error prone, but maybe we'll avoid using eval, which is, pros and cons.
Oh, now that I think about it, there were actually two issues, right? There's an error. We'd said, oh, we couldn't reproduce it, but then we did live. That wasn't captured in the notes.
Okay.
I guess
think
that's affecting anyone who puts in a future date. Date.
Yeah, I think y'all said it had to do with something like one of the variables.
We wanted to make it translation
something or
friendly. Should we just roll that back for now? The
Format.
translation thing. I don't think we had an easy way to get it fixed the right way. Not a quick way, at least.
It was a fairly straightforward. I don't know.
Oh, right.
That
we tracked
allows
it
custom
down
validation.
to probably something weird going on with threading and the word function.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this a separate issue or a separate.
No, yeah, and I had glanced into it. I was like trying to recreate it. I couldn't recreate it on my current or my local server, and even though everything was up to date, so I wasn't really super sure what was happening. But I do think that it wasn't that it was the translation friendly part was the issue. It was the fact that we were turning it into a date and then trying to use that date as the string that gets put in, when we could also the fix was just to put in the exact date that they gave us that is already a string.
So that fix would avoid the threading issue too.
Yes, and this had been a mental to-do list all last week, and so I'm just making a quick patch that we can at least put in and see if it fixes it for Matt, because it would be nice. But I need to edit it first. So I'm making that small 1-line patch right now.
Okay. All right. That seems good. Oh yeah, Michelle, I think it's fine for us to say these are new parameters we have to use. That seems, if that's the solution, I'm totally fine. We already tell people use this custom data type. We could make them require new parameters too.
Sure.
People
Okay.
might be confused by it
Well, that
but-
might be the direction to go then.
if it's easier.
I mean, the other might be almost impossible. So yes.
Oh, well, then yes, we should definitely do the way that is
you know,
possible
try to
instead of the
make
almost
it-
impossible one.
Yeah.
Possible, but slightly annoying. It does tend to hang around, realizing that with the GitHub stuff, which I thought was going to be just like a quick hack that has all these path dependencies now too. But
Mm,
okay, if that's the solution, then that seems like an easy way to go.
yeah. Okay.
So, okay, so we just need to, I guess we can check in again next week and say, hey, if we didn't fix it with the literal string, if that turned to be harder than we thought or didn't resolve the issue, then we could roll back the translation. That's, I think, the way to do it, since no one's using the translation yet. And people might be running into this bug live. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
Right.
I mean,
give it a
that
week.
it's not my thing. So never mind. Don't listen to me. That's one of yours, right? Bryce?
Bryce had started it. If Bryce, if that's like,
What is
I
one
know
of
all these things can seem small, but you were going to try doing the literal string fix,
actively writing the Git command?
writing it right now. Okay, so we'll see if it works.
Which
If
is
you want
why-
a place to
which is why I
test
was
it,
like-
you can test it on the dev server. That's where
Yeah.
I reproduced the bug before.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I need to just try it in the dev server. That was the thing. It was more. I was like running into recreation issues when I was thinking. Every time I had like a spare minute and thought about it last week, and so.
And the issue is making sure that you have it installed and that the server is actually using your code, which I feel like I had to save the config or something to. That was like I wasn't sure I was running the right version of the code a few times.
Yeah, okay.
That's it's what's really annoying about custom data types. But just keep that in mind, I guess. Let's see. I said PDF stats on here. I don't know if there's anything I need feedback or input on. Really. I'm moving over the highlight code to the front end from the back end. That was a good point, Bryce, on the PR. I am going to see what other like easy things we can add in as information to share with the user. One of those being the Dale Chall word list words that are found, or the ones that aren't in the Dale Chall word list, I guess, highlighting those maybe.
Yeah.
And then the other is the list of the table of substitution words that's on the plainlanguage.gov. So
That's cool.
those seem like they'll be easy to do. And I did try, I didn't realize that I was pushing to main. So sorry about that, but I figured actually it's fine here.
I didn't realize you were either, so go for it.
I won't do that with the other changes. I have to play around with different ways of renaming our stuff so we're more wishy-washy about what we're saying. I think what I'm doing is in the debug fields section, I'm going to still say this is a time-based calculation that we're doing with the time to answer. But I'm going to name it in the display column where we show the aggregate answer, not field per field answer of the time to
Yeah,
answer.
because we
Rename
can.
it to something like complexity, like answer difficulty or something like that. Let's see what I actually named it exactly.
We'll think about it. Or I'll try and think
We
of
can
some
keep
names too.
thinking.
I want to try to avoid complexity because then there's two very vague complexity scores.
Yeah, I don't think I
and-
called it. I call it aggregate answer difficulty
That's not a bad one, yeah. Okay.
because it's a sum. I mean, that's that's the thing I think I want to convey.
Yes, yeah, that is good.
And then I'm going to add some more information about a methodology somewhere. I'm leaning towards putting that on our existing assembly line documentation page. It feels like the better place to update and maintain that. Definitely has a better deploy method. But maybe putting a little summary, the highlights of it here on the page. And then I say here, it corresponds roughly to pick a time to answer the question.
I mean, you could also have a link to the documentation. So, yeah.
Yeah, what we're thinking is like when someone runs the tool, we want to know like it's going to change. No, I want to run. It's going to change over time, but we want them to not pin us too hard to our saying that this is how long it will take someone to answer the form, because then they could get real world information about how long it takes people to answer the form, and it won't correspond to what we're saying.
So then they could tell us, and that would be great. But yeah,
we'd rather just, because we know we're going to change it, we're going to do our own testing.
It's wrong, yeah.
They don't really need to tell us that it's wrong. But we do think it's a useful part of our score as is. Just calling it time isn't, we're not quite there yet to say we think it could be called time.
Yeah.
I think some of these things are like this. We had some good feedback about that too. I feel like we maybe need to pull that out a different way.
For sure. That was the hackiest thing. It's like what David's doing in the Form Explorer stuff. And so I copied it and then I was like, I don't like it. I don't have time to fix it.
Okay.
So anywhere else could be better. Mostly I do think it's important to have it on the page because that's one of the things that like the people were mentioning of like, oh, it would be great if like you actually said what green means and what yellow means and stuff.
Right.
And that's sort of what I'm trying to explain, where it's like, if you don't see anything, like, oh, here's what the mean is. Do some fancy visualizations if we wanted to do that, but
it would be kind of cool to have like a little distribution graph for some of these scores, actually. But I don't know how to do it. If there's
we
I don't know
could
if that's important, but it seemed useful.
have done similar things.
Just like a little triangle pointing like here's where you are on the distribution curve, right?
Yeah. It's more of making sure we can get that distribution curve, which we can while we recalculate everything, but that's harder, and that's not too bad. And then just how heavy we want the page to be, because I've done a lot of stuff like that in there's a fairly lightweight visualization library in JS that I forget what it's called, but I've used before.
Is it 3JS or D3?
D3, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the high charts or something, which is
No. D3
it's
is
not
a lot
as lightweight, but
Yeah, D3 is like very lightweight, which is perfect for this, where we don't want to really make an entire chart. We just want to be like, here are some bars. They're roughly this size. Point at this one and change its color or something like that.
okay.
It would take a little bit because I haven't touched it in a while. But it's if we want to do it, we could do that.
Yeah,
It's just
it
a
might not
very
be that
bare
helpful
bones
for anything
library.
other than the complexity score. But if we have it there, I feel like that might be nice to. People are saying like, well, what's the max? There's not really a max, right? It has a very long tail. There's no such thing as a negative complexity. So it's 0 to infinity, right?
Well, it is actually negative because it's just a linear. Not very many have negative, and I tried to weigh it so it doesn't. But I think well, I saw one pop up with a negative, and I was like, why are you like that? But because all it is just a linear weight stuff, and so.
So it is possible. Some things reduce complexity. some of the weights are negative. Could be
None
negative.
of, none of the weights are negative, but I think
this
some of like I do. There are a few things that I like have intercepts on. So like, oh, no one's ever going to have less than like a 1-page thing, and so I think I have like 1 page as the standard. Or so there are a few things where I have intercepts to because you need intercepts to make it make sense sometimes, or to make certain fields not like override everything else.
Right. Okay. I can't think of anything else we really got to talk through. I guess we're just gonna keep iterating on it until it makes more sense to everybody. I'm gonna try to work on that paper. By the way, like, so Bryce, you and David both should get a credit on it no matter what. Because really basically it's turning into, this is going to be a paper about what we built. And even though I am writing it, I don't think it makes sense. It's not the right amount of credit for me to have for it, especially if this ends up being one of the only things you write about it.
That's fair. Always happy to help, like, do some edits and stuff to, if that makes it a little bit easier. But
I will try to get something by the end of the week or something. I guess that maybe that's a good target, because that would give you like a week to give some time to it. But
yeah.
We'll see what happens. The 12th is a Sunday, which is a weird deadline, actually. But I believe that is the day that it said on the thing. Yeah, but maybe that's it. Does anyone else have anything else they wanted to put on our coding thing?
Nothing specific that I will actually like touch in the next week. So,
I mean, we could touch on the development stuff, but that's not specifically related to assembly line.
yeah, if you wanted to.
The development of
on DocAssemble, local development on DocAssemble.
Oh, how to do DocAssemble development.
Yeah, so last week, it was last week after you left, Michelle had gotten a lot of help from Jonathan, like a whole lot of help, because he did not describe it very well, and editing JavaScript files on DocAssemble, like in DocAssemble core, is very annoying and complicated. And we sort
to be fair, I haven't done that kind of thing before, so he had to really go.
Also, to be fair to you, it's annoying and complicated. It's not that hard for a lot of other, like, nowhere else have I seen, oh, you need to start the server, then download a file, put that in the code again, and restart the server for the JavaScript to actually work. Because he doesn't minify it when it starts, he minifies it by using the DocAssemble server. So we were like, oh, there's a simpler way to do this. We could just do a Python script that's doing exactly what it's doing on the server. And you had, sorry, I just saw that you had messaged me yesterday saying you got something. I
actually did it in Node first because I know JavaScript. So I was like, let me get this down in Node. And then once I've got that, I can look up how to I don't know why anything needs to be minified, honestly, because he's just going to minify it after the PR anyway, is my understanding. So I don't know that minification has to be done when you're developing. It might just be like for a last step, you can just do that whole process. But like my minification is different from his minification, and he said it's not a problem. So I think that for development, it might not be necessary to minify.
Yeah, that's fine. And it's probably not, it's mostly whatever it does, and then the up in the repo should be minified, because it's every single DocAssemble server will use that and serve it a bunch of times. So
the one of the things is breaking out the concatenation of the files, I think, into its own file with its own functions. Because then you don't have to run the server to get the concatenation. Like, that's the whole wget stuff. That's what you get, is concatenated files.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And so but I'm not sure that Jonathan would accept that kind of change, and I'm not sure how to, I mean, I could just.
That's what I'm thinking, is that
PR and
I touch as little of running DocAssemble code as I can. And so
Maybe that could be a different PR.
Yeah, a little bit at a time.
But it would make it a lot less split in these two places. But I hear what you're saying, because development usually doesn't involve adding a new file. It's just that if you do, then it's going to be really, really confusing.
That's fair. It's
Because you
I
have to
will-
list
yeah.
add the file to concatenate in both places.
Well, so but that's the thing is if you add a JS file, you're not just like you'd have to add it in a lot of other places too. Like we're not going to be able to reduce that complexity because it's not only will you have to add it in our like bundle.py and like the server, you'd have to add it in like the HTML templates for
I don't think so,
or
actually.
or it, well if
That's
you
not
add
what
the-
I needed to do. Like all I needed to do was add it in that concatenation. And then
Oh, you're saying
add
in
it
the
along
minify
with
part.
everything
Okay,
else.
Okay, you're saying add it
Not the
separate.
minify
Okay,
part, yeah.
fine.
The wget part of it. Is this clear, or should I?
No, sorry, it's clear. I'm thinking about it. I still don't really think it's like the priority. And honestly, it's one of those things. If I see it, like I feel like I could add, like, oh, if you add this, like, add a separate JS file, Jonathan might just merge it into the main files anyway. Sort of change. Like once you like, it's less of the JS stuff is not very structured. Is mostly my thought, and so like
Yeah.
because it's not very structured, I just have a hunch that Jonathan will be more particular about what it looks like. And it would like, you're right. The one time I think he would be fine with it is if you added like an entire, like he does a lot of static includes of like other Git repos and like other code. And if you added that he would probably like, okay, if this is a whole thing, it's just like that. But if it's just like a single JS file somewhere else, he'd probably just add it to the end of the JS file that is already being used for that feature.
I mean, he doesn't have to add this development JS file. I mean, the file the concat file is just a Python file. It's not
Yes.
a JS file. So
I know.
okay.
What JavaScript file did you add that you were thinking about this?
I added the one that would like minify and concat without, needing to restart the server.
Sorry, the example you're talking about like, oh, if someone adds a JS file, I know you were doing JavaScript stuff, like, or JavaScript additions to Docassemble. Were you adding a file that like made you think of this use case, or were you just trying to think in general if someone adds a file?
No, I was adding a file.
What file are you? That's not the minification one, right? Though, because you're not serving the minification to the user, are you?
I did a whole different development thing for the signature.
Yes.
And that's where I needed to add a library. So I added a JS file.
Okay, so you did.
Added to them.
Okay, so you added a whole library for
Yeah.
that stuff. Okay.
It's a small library, so it shouldn't be. But yes, I added that. So, and I find myself wanting to do things that are out of the ordinary. So maybe that's just me. And as long as I know, it's fine. I don't know. But so there are two separate issues. Like one is what I did with the signature stuff. And the other is, I guess, three separate issues. The other is like developing without having to restart the server all the time. And the other is trying to abstract the concatenation.
Yeah.
So
I think it's
I kind of wish we could abstract the concatenation and also the building, but I'm not sure what goes into like where he does. I think the building is done separately with the pip install.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the wget. So maybe that
there's nothing to
could be abstracted. I don't know.
I don't think there's anything to build. I think the idea is pip install takes an already built like JavaScript and minified JavaScript file and just puts it in the same place in the Python package on the running server that it then grabs. Like there's nothing
already
special.
it's not just minified, it's already concatenated as
Yes,
well,
yeah,
because it's
exactly.
concatenated with the wget. So if
Yeah.
that could be broken up, if that could be added to the library as well, I guess. Because I don't know, I guess he runs wget on the server every time or something.
He does, yeah. If that's his workflow, then little steps. I don't think trying to jump straight to this is a step that depends on how you, or depends on you running pip install and it will do it then. There are so many different things that pip install can do and ways that pip can install things that I don't know a lot about. And so
yeah, that's not where I was
manual,
thinking, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, just keeping it as a manual dev step that you have to do, I think is fine for now. If we want to keep pushing on it after this, if this PR gets accepted, I think that's a good idea.
Well, if I have a separate file for development for concatenation,
yeah,
then I mean I already have it where it's concatenating and also creating the files, I think, that need to be created. I'm not completely sure because he puts them in localhost. What I do is I just create new bundle.js, playground bundle.js, all that stuff. But I don't understand, because the wget he does puts them in localhost, so I don't know if I'm doing the same thing.
And it's weird because first, maybe
he does change. He changes the user.
So that would go to the
Oh no, he doesn't change the user. This is on the host. Is what he when he does the wget, it's on the host and it goes to localhost. Let me look.
But I think his. Wait, okay. So actually, localhost or host, like the host machine.
I'm gonna get the wget so that you can see what the wget command looks like.
This is a tangent, but yeah, I think what Bryce was just saying about pip install reminded me.
Yeah,
setup tools did a major breaking change that's pissing off a lot of people recently.
Oh no!
I hadn't seen that. Is there a thing that you? It was like was there like a particular conversation you still have the link to? Because I like tried looking like setup tools version 66 and I couldn't see anything that broke editable.
It's not the dash editable is not really the problem. It's just the pip install. It was like basically, I don't know, maybe you aren't doing this. If you're already always using virtual env to test and edit new Python stuff.
Pretty much.
I end up, you always do?
Yeah.
Okay. And it probably won't affect you. The problem is when you do a pip install and it can see Ubuntu tagged version numbers, which are not allowed technically according to Semver, then it will just fail to install stuff. So it's like, wait, I found this thing in the dependency chain or it's already installed on your system. I think that doesn't follow Semver. I'm not going to install anything anymore.
Oh, okay.
That
happens to be like
change.
A lot of Python packages that you could install in Ubuntu happen to not follow Semver the way that they're named because they have random text appended to the end of the version string.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't really know why setup tools has to police that for everybody.
They don't.
But they decided to. So the solution that they said is just pin your version of setup tools, which is what I'm doing for now.
So I pasted the wget command. So once you minify and pip install and restart the server, you then do this wget.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure how that works because restarting the server, I guess, is what I don't know. I don't understand what I don't understand what restarting the server does, because then you've got a bundle and it moves it to localhost bundle.css, which I don't understand what it's doing there. Like,
no, so it's
what that means.
It's getting localhost /bundle.css. Like localhost is just could be any URL out there. and it's just getting bundle.css from that server, which is our server that's running, and it's saving it in the like locally editable repo web app or Docassemble web app, Docassemble web app.
Okay,
static.
so I got the arguments mixed up. Wrong
Yes,
direction of the arguments. Okay. Right.
Yeah, I
So
think
that
dash-
just creates the bundle. And so I do a thing where I create the bundle and then I save it in the files. I save those. I basically do the wget thing.
Exactly. Like just, yeah, that.
And then I found that when I just did pip install and I didn't restart the server,
Mhm.
I saw it on the server. So I don't know why you have to restart the server a second time.
I don't know if you technically do, because it depends. Because pip install will actually put the file at the right place that the server can see. But if you don't restart, like the Python code never restarts. And I don't know if it's ever like, I guess that's Flask doing that. Maybe
So
it's
it doesn't
Nginx.
actually use those files.
There's a chance that it's like cached already somewhere. Like if it's already served bundle.css once, it's like, oh, I haven't restarted. Obviously, no one has changed like random text files that I'm sitting on top of while I'm running. I'll use this cache somewhere. I have no idea, but that's my hard guess. And so if there isn't a cache there, it has to go to the file on a server or in the file in the file directory and be like, okay, it's this one, and grab it for the first time. And if maybe it's just for the first time it works, but if you grab it for the second time, Nginx might cache it, Flask might cache it somewhere. There are a lot of layers that it could be messed up that it sort of needs to restart. Is my understanding. Yeah, UWSGI could. There's so many things that I don't know what they do.
Okay.
I roughly know what they do, but I don't know exactly like if they cache or anything like that. So
Okay. The other thing I was trying to do was get rid of the need for like all the bunch of commands you have to run to pip install. I wanted to take care of up to pip install, but you say thumbs up, but I can't figure out how to enter the new shell because you have to keep entering new shells and
No.
entering new shells and entering new shells.
yes, yeah.
And I don't know how to follow the new shell down.
I did do a thumbs up. I immediately am like, oh, actually, yeah, that's a lot harder than I thought. It's a good sentiment, but I don't think it's. I think this is a thing that I think
not
is
the MVP.
best.
movie.
Best. This is like the thing you're working on is best like run locally and not on Docker. And if you wanted to do the thing that did pip install on Docker, it would be you'd have to run it somewhere else, and it would be a bit more complicated, I think.
Yeah.
So that part I think is a bit confusing. But at the very least, like that part is a thing you have to do when you edit anything in Docassemble. And so
Okay.
I think, and that's like I think is in the code. It's or like in the documentation. It's the like I think I always run like the longest version that takes a bit longer, but it like makes sure that if I updated a dependency, it always gets updated, and there's just no surprises, even if it takes a little bit longer.
Okay.
And I think that's sort of a thing. You can't get around that, and you have to do it for anything that you change in Docassemble, not just JS files. And so I think as long as we're aligning, editing JS files looks a lot closer to what you have to do to edit Python files is the right step.
Okay. And the last thing is that what Jonathan said was probably not the last thing, but what Jonathan said to do was to do a make file. And so I am a bit concerned that like I will make this JS or Python or whatever file, and he'll just be like, well, that's not a make file. Though I haven't made a make file before. So, I could give it a shot.
CMake is its own thing. Certainly that's great as a system.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be CMake, but like you could ask him. Honestly, if you want to just ask him and be like, hey, I have a Python, like I have a Python file, or like I guess a Node file. I have something that already I have a script that does this. Would you prefer it to be in Python or Make? My suggestion for leaning towards Python was that there are no Make files in Docassemble. Like this would be the first Make file, and so even if Jonathan thought of a Make file, like it's not it's the first one that's in there, and it's weird, and it would stand out as the only makefile you would need, and it's in a weird spot too, and so
Okay.
that's why I was leaning away from it. But if he prefers it for some reason, then that's valid. I don't know if he would
Hmm.
say no to adding the Python file, but if for some reason he does, then that's like an option
Then
I can
that's
take.
a different thing.
Yeah, I'd be willing to take a look at something like that because I know it would be. I could probably do it in 30 minutes, an hour, maybe.
Really?
Well, I don't
Okay, so
know.
you've made a makefile before?
I've made makefiles before, and I've done a lot of stuff with them.
Okay.
I haven't done them recently, and I have to like have the reference guide open while I do things because
Fair enough.
the
Yeah.
syntax is horrible and it's fairly confusing. But just a raw makefile, and it's not like we need any. It's not like we need the hard part of makefiles is interacting with what's on the system, like
Okay.
other libraries and stuff, and that's not super hard because we wouldn't have any other libraries. We'd be calling concat or
Yeah.
cat with a lot of pipes and stuff, bashisms and things. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'll take it back down to the bare bones JS file, and that will probably be sufficient, though it wouldn't require you to install Minify, but it would require you to install FS. I don't know why. I don't know why it's requiring you to install FS. FS comes with Node. Maybe I can ask Jonathan about why his version of Node doesn't come with FS, but it doesn't. And so then it creates a Node modules folder and a package.json folder and stuff like that. So I might have to add them to the git ignore. That would be the one thing.
that's weird.
Or we'd add a package.json.
You can just do global, right?
Yeah, maybe it could install global.
Yeah.
But it really, I don't understand. What every Node version comes with FS. Why doesn't this node have FS in it? Nobody knows. So I mean, just try running FS in there. It doesn't. You can't import FS.
It can require FS, right?
No, because whatever is going on in there right now requires you to use an import statement. You can't require stuff.
That is fairly. I don't know if I quite understand. I have a thing open in my local
Docker container.
Yeah. So what is this? I'm in .exit. So yeah, I'm in a Docker container.
You're in you're in su www.data. But you can't import or require inside.
You can.
What? Mine just kept throwing errors at me.
I don't quite know. It's this version. I don't know if it makes a difference.
No, it doesn't.
But
no. I mean, that's the version I have too. I will try it again. I will try it again and see what happens.
Yeah, that's fair. Good luck. I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah. I will see what happens. All right. Node. I'm gonna try node require. Maybe this isn't running in the Docker container. No, it is running in the Docker container. Okay, I don't know. Okay. Maybe I wasn't in su-data, but you weren't in either node.
I was in both. Both of them work for me. Like, cause I don't node loaded in both fine. So
yeah. I mean, I already have SHS installed. Yeah, it works. there. Why isn't it working in my file? Okay, whatever. I will look into it again, and I will at least record the errors that I'm getting, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. Oh, it's 12:08, so we should run off. Or do we have till 12:30? How
We have
much do
till
I have to
12:30. I don't
apologize?
mind if we're
No, it's
under. Yeah.
yeah, no, we don't have to go to all the way to 12:30. We can, but I don't think
Yeah,
there's
I just
it seems
wondered
like we're
if
sort
I'd
of
taken us over our
No.
usual
Nope,
time.
we didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. I'll
Okay.
probably enjoy the few minutes back. We've definitely taken from the other side enough times. It's okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
all right. Well, that was good. We actually got more into the deep dive part of our coding deep dive. We don't have enough just time checking on statuses.
Yeah. I really appreciated that. Thanks.
Of course.
And yeah, I hope I get FS. That would be great. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
we'll see everyone later this week.
Sounds good. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.